On this week's show, construction materials continue to rise. How will this affect property investors?
And we're going to be answering all of your questions in today's Q&A session.
Welcome to the Property Investors Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an upload. You can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. Enjoy this week's show and don't forget to share it with all your friends.
Hey, I'm Russell Leeds.
I'm Alistair Cunningham.
And welcome to the Property Investors Podcast. How are you doing, Al?
Good. I'm good. I'm alright. I'm a bit stiff, but I'm alright on that. So
you are?
No. I'm just a bit stiff.
Is it because of these shorts?
The shorts do it for me. Like, what you guys don't realise is dressed smartly up to here, but underneath there's not a lot going on down there. It's just I'm good, but I've been in the wars recently, man. I'm covered in cuts and bruises, and I don't know, I sliced my finger open yesterday.
So how did you do the finger?
Oh, well, I was at one of my refurb projects, and I was, I don't often do the work myself at refurbs. I don't often do it, but I...
Oh, at all? Really?
Yeah,
just in general? I've never seen you work a day in your life.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. I was playing around with a blade on a wall, trying to get something off a wall, and the blade spun and went straight into my finger.
What were you trying to get off a wall?
There's a bit of old wallpaper on the wall, and I got a little blade, and I was trying to... And it spun round, and it caught me in the finger.
So you got that finger stripping a wall?
Yeah. It's funny. Honestly, it's funny because I've spent all my life on the tools, like pretty much all my life until the last 3-4 years, and you soon forget, like you soon lose the touch and things like that.
I saw the other day, I picked up a hammer. It was like, what do you do with this?
It's just funny. But I've done that. Like, I nearly broke my arm the other week karting, and literally this arm was completely disabled. For,
if we could pop up a little picture of the arm,
it was disgraceful.
I'll send you a picture now. Just pop it up on the screen. It was quite bad. I said to Alistair, the last time I saw a bruise like that was actually on Alistair.
Yeah.
The only other time I've ever seen a bruise that bad was also on Alistair, but it wasn't on his arm. Do you want to tell the viewers where you were bruised that badly?
On my lower back. I remember lifting my t-shirt up and showing you my lower back. It was in Uganda when we all fell down the waterfall, and we took a hell of a battering against all the rocks. So my back was very damaged.
Are we going with back, are we? Is that what we're going with?
And my ass.
It was mainly his ass. His ass was black. It was terrible.
It was horrific. But it's all fixed sort of now. It's still there, but I do think there's something loose inside here. Like, because whenever I lean on it hurts. But I've been X-rayed and stuff, and they said it's all right. So
fair enough.
What about yourself?
So I've not been in the wars, fortunately. So no. I've been okay. I'm trying to think if I've done anything exciting. I went to the zoo.
Oh, really? Which one?
With the kids, Whipsnade.
Oh, that's alright actually.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So no, I haven't got anything majorly exciting to report, my friend. I think no injuries, no cuts, no bruises, no vaccinations. You've been feeling poorly because of your vaccination, haven't you?
Yeah, I had my second vaccination the other day, and it completely floored me for a day. It completely ruined me actually for a day. But yeah, all good now. So
Cool. So on this week's show, then, obviously you've been talking about refurbs. That's quite fitting. We're talking about the rising costs. I mean, this has been going on. This isn't like a new thing, is it? It's just getting worse.
Well, the rising cost of materials for building is, like, pre-COVID. Obviously, you have your normal inflation rises and things like that. You have your normal year-on-year rises. But when COVID hit, and since COVID, and it's going to be like this for some time, I believe, the cost of materials has risen sometimes up to 50%. It is absolutely ludicrous. And I get why, but it's really affecting refurbs. As we saw through COVID, at the very start, like for instance, you couldn't get plaster or you couldn't get plasterboard, so because all the manufacturers, they'd shut up shop, they had to, so there was a massive lack of supply of plasterboard and other materials such as, and the stuff that was getting produced was being held back for the NHS and for the government basically. So us mere mortals that are doing a refurb, we couldn't get stuff, and
you were like bottom of the pile.
Oh, 100%, you're bottom of the pile. And there was cases of that I had a house that needed plastering, and it needed plaster skipped throughout the whole building, and it sat for 3 months where we couldn't get plaster. In the end, in fairness, it didn't sit empty for 3 months, nothing else got done. It just means we kept delaying the plaster until the very last minute. In the end, we ended up paying about £35 a bag for plaster. Now, when you consider you need probably 20-25 bags to do a house, and it's normally £8 a bag, that's like 3 times the price. And
it's
that's
not. It's over 4 times the price.
Yeah, £8. But yeah, it is actually. Yeah, it is over 4 times the price.
It's about 4.5 times the price.
Yeah, and that's just one aspect of a refurb, one material. The same goes with timber. The same goes with plasterboard.
Even like fence panels.
Everything, yeah. You name it, everything is affected, and the cost is going sky high. Now, what does that mean if you're doing a buy refurb refinance? It means your refurb costs are considerably higher. So what's actually happening is people are leaving money in deals now, whereas before they were getting most of like 95% of their money out. Now they're leaving more in, and because the refurb element has gone higher. And I also think builders are charging more as well now because they know the game and they're playing the game a little bit. But it's not just us that's affected by COVID. Like obviously we know that. Everyone's affected by COVID. And one of the reasons why materials has gone sky high is because of the lack of lorry drivers. Like there's a national crisis.
I was reading about this. They were saying that lorry drivers are now, in many cases, better paid than like solicitors.
Seriously, mate.
Doctors.
I know lorry. I come from the commercial vehicle background, and I know guys. I know people that own lorry companies where they employ drivers. They've got drivers earning 60 grand a year and some. Like there's some of them drivers when they with overtime are getting 80-90 grand a year now on their monthly income, what they're making at the minute, because the lorry firms are having to pay much higher rates to their drivers to get them to do the work, and as a result they've got to pass that charge somewhere. Someone's got to pay for that.
Yeah.
And if you look at like let's say the food industry at the minute, there's a real concern at the minute that we're going to start seeing empty shelves in the near future, and I'm sure you've seen it in supermarkets.
Well, we had it at the beginning of the lockdown, didn't we? Where you go into that was mainly because of panic buying, though. Really.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Although, if the thing is, it's kind of it's one of those vicious circles, isn't it? Because if you say in the near future we're going to have empty shelves, what do people do?
Everyone panics buy. Yeah.
They panic buy as it makes it worse.
Well, I just think as a whole, okay, the whole transport sector is a bit struggling at the minute because of lack of drivers. Now, the reason they've got a lack of drivers is because the drivers, let's face it, most of the drivers in the UK that drive for lorry firms, a vast majority of them are from Europe. They're not British born and bred. And as a result, what's been happening through COVID, a lot of these people have gone back home to work back home because of COVID, so they've left the jobs in the UK, leaving out a lack of drivers. I was reading this morning on the one of the big transport websites, and they said there's a lack of 100,000 drivers. They need 100,000 drivers to keep up with the demand for the transport and logistical side of the business. Okay, now,
do you know what though? Surely, I mean, obviously, short term. Yes, but surely if they're paying 60 grand for lorry drivers, it's not that bad a job, is it?
No,
I mean, I quite enjoy driving.
I enjoy driving.
Have the radio on, drive along. It's a bit. It's not like being a doctor, is it?
No,
do you know what I mean?
Okay, it's not, but it does have its own. It does have stresses amongst lorry drivers because they have. Like, at the minute I'm watching on Netflix a program called Truckers, and it's about Eddie Stobart. Do you know Eddie Stobart?
I do, yeah.
Eddie Stobart's the biggest lorry firm in the UK.
Big green lorries.
Big green lorries.
For some reason people buy little figures of
Mate, they've got, oh my goodness me, right? They have Eddie Stobart spotters, okay?
I know,
And
I've heard about
honestly,
this.
they have a whole fan club, they've got 100,000 members. They could all become drivers. There you are, we've just fixed the lorry crisis. Get the Eddie Stobart
They love lorries.
They love lorries. They're a bit sad. Get them to be the drivers. That's what you need to do. However, another problem. DVLA has announced that one of the reasons for the lack of lorry drivers is the backlog of driving tests. Because there's not the new blood coming through because they can't get through the driving test because there's like a 6-month wait to get a driving test. Because there's not enough testers and there's not enough people doing it's just the whole thing is on backlog. But as a result, that's what direct impact on the building industry and on the building materials. What we're talking about today is because there's a lack of lorry drivers, therefore they can't deliver the materials, and the materials they do give come at a premium because they've got to pay the drivers more money.
You'd think if the money's there though, and they are paying 60 grand or whatever for lorry drivers, you'd think that people would start moving. I mean, that is a good salary.
It's a very good salary. Yeah, 60 grand a year to drive a lorry. I know they work long hours, and like some lorry drivers leave home on Monday, don't come back till Saturday, and only have one day off, and they live in their cab all week, and they get good money. But I just think it is a big problem, and I think it's gonna come to head very, very soon. Even like all your pub chains, all your fast food restaurants, they're all suffering because of lack of deliveries. And what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to start paying more for materials or goods to get them sooner and quicker, and therefore the person that's going to suffer is the end user, because they're going to have to fundamentally pay for it. We're seeing this in the building industry with building materials.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to continue to rise until this gets resolved.
So what do you reckon then, on average, right? See how on the ball you are. How much do you think construction materials have risen in the last 12 months? So July to July.
July to July, I would say at least 20%, but probably more like 30%.
So what are we going to go for?
Between 25.
20.
Is it 20%?
It's 20.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good guess.
But that takes a 20 grand refurb to 24 grand. It takes a 60 grand refurb to 72 grand. So I just done a refurb, and it was cost me 68 grand. It was quoted at 55. But with the cost of materials, the increased prices, and
that happens anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah, it always happens.
That happens anyway. But obviously with this, it's extra. But construction amounts to about 6% of the UK's economic output.
Wow. Okay,
so this is a massive.
Yeah.
This is huge, really, and it's like you say, it's little things, isn't it? It's like the European jobs, the knock-on effect of this, the knock-on effect of that, COVID, factories being shut at the beginning of COVID, everything going behind.
How do we fix it though? What do you reckon is the solution here? Because obviously we're now completely out of lockdown. There's no restrictions anymore.
Although there's rumours of, have you read about the October lockdown?
Oh. No.
They're talking of doing a 2-week lockdown over October half term, just as like a reset to stop any more, to put a stop to any mixing or whatever for a couple of weeks.
I didn't know that.
Oh, it's only rumours at the moment, but they took it to the government today or yesterday,
right,
and they refused to rule it out.
Jeez, I remember this time last year, them talking about, it was more like November time, talking about a 2 or 3 week full lockdown again, because this time last year we'd come out of lockdown a little bit, but we were still sort of locally and all that sort of stuff, and they were on about a circuit breaker again, like having a month so we could spend Christmas at home, or so we could spend Christmas with your families and things like that.
And then they did that, and then we didn't anyway.
Were we in lockdown at Christmas?
We were. They announced that it was going to be. It wasn't a strict lockdown, but they originally said it would be inhumane to not let people spend time with their families at Christmas.
Right. And that's inhumane. What, 1 day a year? No, that's inhumane.
That's inhumane. It was going to be 5 days, wasn't it?
Oh.
They said you could have 5 days where you could break. You can mix with other 2 other households or something.
Okay.
But then just beforehand they were like, actually no, you can't.
Yeah. But I don't remember, to be honest. I don't follow or keep up with what's been going on with lockdown. I just do my own thing and get on with it and don't really give a monkeys, to be quite honest. So it is what it is. But what is the solution? Obviously, the country needs more drivers to drive lorries. That's one solution. So get more lorries. That means the delivery is going to be sped up again. All the factories should be back to work, really. I think they all are. I don't know there's many that are still shut. So they should all be back to work. And it's a case of now just getting that supply out there, and getting that circulating again and seeing what happens. But I'd be interested to see if the prices stay high because they've got away with it.
No, because what will happen is, eventually it will even itself out, won't it? It's the same with anything. So eventually someone will go, oh, well, if they're all charging this, I'll undercut them and do this. And then they'll go, oh, sugar, he's done that. And they'll all match him, and then they'll do it again. And eventually it will sort itself out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's reasons why at the moment, but eventually it will. I'm confident. It's not going to be just that they're stuck up at these high prices.
Hopefully not. But like, what can you do, you guys listening? What can you do to prevent or to counteract this increase is you need to factor in contingencies massively. We run a training program called Buy, Refurbish, Refinance, and we talk in there when you're factoring in things like your building costs. We always say leave a contingency. Now we used to say 10%, but I would actually go with 20% now, obviously, because of the increase in prices. And you just want to make sure you're underestimating the end value, but you're overestimating the refurb costs, because there's so many hidden costs, especially now with the additional cost materials. Just factor that in. Make sure you know about it and you're aware of it, so that the numbers you're creating and coming up with are sort of as accurate as possible.
How much of the lorry thing do you think is due to Brexit versus COVID with the European drivers? Or do you think that...
It's a very good point, actually. I honestly don't know.
Do you think we'll never know because COVID's kind of come along at the same time as Brexit, and therefore...
I don't think you'll ever know, yeah. Or maybe it was meant to. Maybe COVID was done to cover up Brexit.
Do you really think?
Nah.
No, mate.
I'm just waiting for some of the conspiracy theorists to come up and say, told you. I don't know. Listen, on the National Transport website, which is the one I read now and again, they were saying that it's very difficult to define if it's down to COVID or Brexit, but they're saying it's a combination of Brexit and COVID which is causing the lorry driver shortage.
By the way, you've just dropped your Eddie Stowart membership card on the floor.
Oh, have I? Oh.
We'll get it.
My sporters card.
We'll get it later.
I'm really not.
How many have you spotted?
I've not spotted in. I'm not an Eddie Stowart spotter. I just started watching this program called Truckers. It's actually quite interesting.
But interestingly, that you knew how many were in the club.
Yeah, because they were talking about it last night on the program. Because
how do you see the membership card?
I've got my membership. No, I didn't. It's on Netflix. It's called Truckers, and I watched it the first 2 or 3 episodes the other day. And
where did you hear about Truckers? Was it your Eddie Stowart membership club?
No. I was just flicking through Amazon and it said Truckers, and I went, oh, okay, let's watch that. Okay. Anyway, and on the opposite episode, they spend a lot of time with the truckers, with the spotters. Sorry, the truckers and the spotters. And they.
Are you on it?
No, I'm not. No, right. But it's actually quite sad what they do. Right, you know, they go to the Eddie Stowart yard. They've got like 40 yards across the country, and they go to the yard. They spend all week driving around the yard, taking photographs of the lorries coming in and going, and then they log the numbers. Because all Eddie Stowart lorries have a name. They're all named after a woman. And the front, they're all named after like Mary Rose and all. They're all named, and they've all got a fleet number. So they take the name down, they take the fleet number down, and they track it. And the person that spots and tracks the most gets to the top of the league table.
There's a league table.
I'm telling you, they take it very seriously.
Where were you in the table?
I'm not on the table, but my point being is they do take it very seriously. Truck spotting's a big thing. Like, not for me. It's mainly older people.
How old? 40
plus people. 40 plus, yeah.
40 plus.
50 plus. I'm not on there, and I don't spot lorries. That is very sad. But they enjoy it. They love it. They enjoy it. And honestly, some of these people have been spotting Eddie Stowart lorries since back in the 50s when it started.
Really?
And they honestly, they've got photographs of the original lorries. It's just crazy. But anyway, it's their thing. If they love it, happy days. You crack on.
Right, it's now time for this. So this is part of the show where you ask your questions and we answer. First question is coming from Tossin, and he says, is a 24-bed city centre HMO a good idea?
That is actually a really good question. It depends. What does your due diligence tell you? Go do your DD and find out if there's definitely a need for that number of rooms. I mean, 24 bedrooms in a single property.
It's a large HMO.
So I mean, it's a huge HMO. Most HMOs are generally 10 bedrooms and under. You don't see many above that. That's like a small hotel. It comes down to due diligence. Do your due diligence. Find out if there's enough supply at the minute for rooms, and find out if there's enough demand. Speak to multiple HMO managers. You really want somebody to manage that. That's a full-time management position. That is. That's not something you're going to manage whilst doing a job. I think if you're going to do that, you need a full-time manager, because managing 4 or 5 bedroom HMOs is a job in itself.
You're going to be continually, I mean, HMO tenants typically say, 6 months to a year?
Yeah.
So you're going to be literally every month, you're going to be having like 2 to 4 rooms.
Yeah, you're always going to be looking for tenants. You're always going to be doing changeovers. That needs somebody on a full-time salary.
It's like having 5 or 6 HMOs next door to each other.
Yeah. But again, I believe that you'll need to employ somebody to actually be there from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, to just manage that, to look after maintenance, tenants, voids, day-to-day stuff. Honestly, but all you got to do, if you feel it is a good opportunity, make sure you've done your due diligence. Is there supply? Is there demand? What is that like? You don't want to put a 24 bed in the middle of a city that's saturated with HMOs already, because you'll struggle to fill the rooms. And I imagine a 24 bed HMO is not going to be cheap, so you're going to have them costs. However, it could make an awful lot of money. Again, you tell me what the due diligence you've done, and I'll tell you if it's a viable deal. If you're not already, get booked onto Samuel 365. Samuel 365 is a program that we run. It's like £95 a month or something like that. And what you can do is you can book as many mentoring calls as you want, and you can put that to us on a mentoring call. We'll help you assess it, and we'll help you come up with whether or not it's a good deal or not.
I think I would be tempted to do apartments.
Yeah, I must admit.
And let's say you might get, I don't know, it depends on the layout. You might get 18 apartments in there or something. I think I might be tempted to go that route.
You'll probably find, if you run the numbers as apartments compared to HMOs, you'll probably find you'll make just as much money with apartments, but with far less hassle.
You'll probably have more value but I think there'll be more. I mean, listen, it depends on rent, depends on how much you're paying for the building, depends on there's a lot of factors to take into consideration.
But it's a good point, though, because bear in mind, with apartments, the tenant who's in there will pay the rent, but also bear in mind, with apartments, the tenant will not only pay the rent, but they'll also cover the bills and the council tax, so you don't have to do that. So that factor that into your cost. Plus, the tenants will generally stay longer, so you don't have to recycle them as often as normal.
Plus, you can sell them individually. You can sell half, keep half. You haven't got one big thing. You diversify in a way. But listen, great question tossing. Onto you.
Oh, okay. I got a question coming to us via Instagram, and it's I don't know his name. His handle is "It is always you versus us." Okay, so it is always you versus us.
You versus us?
I don't know, that's his handle name. Okay. Anyway, I do know him because I've spoken to him in the past, but I can't remember his real name. So he's asked a question. Look, he is looking to invest in property, and he doesn't know the best way to do it through a limited company or through as a sole trader. What would we advise?
Limited company.
I would advise limited company as well, but go and speak to an accountant and get them to look at your circumstances, because it's not always the easiest way, but get them to look at your circumstances and take it from there. And another one coming through. One second, I'm going to have to find this one.
I mean, there's lots of things to factor in whether you buy through, but typically, for most people, a limited company has tax benefits, such as Section 24 doesn't apply.
Yeah, 100%. But again, speak to an accountant and get them to give you the advice, because it's like I say, we do limited, but you can do whatever you want to do, but speak to the accountant and get the right advice. This next one's coming from Khalid. Khalid wants to know, he's doing lease option agreements, or he's trying to do lease option agreements. Again, same question, limited company or sole trader, limited company, we advise. However, what is the easiest and quickest way to find lease option agreements?
Easiest and quickest way is just to get out there, start finding houses in negative equity, but start making viewings, maybe look at rental properties, and sort of starting off on a rent-to-rent basis where you can offer to buy. But I would just say get out there, let people know what you can do, look for opportunities.
Another phone.
Yeah, whatever.
The
Silly Stobart pass falling out was
lease option agreements is about people, okay? You need to get the skills to deal with people and to speak to people and know people and meet.
But you don't want a personal lease option agreement, that'd be wrong.
No. But you get yes, but you get the option from getting to know the vendor and getting to understand what their problems are. Now, a lease option should only be done if it suits them and suits you. Okay, and the most people that will do lease option agreements, the vast majority, are because they can't sell it conventionally. Okay, so you're going in and you're going to supply a solution to their problem. So you first need to understand what that problem is, and if you can help them by doing the property on a lease option agreement and it suits them and it suits you, then do it. Until you get to doing bigger deals, like for instance, I'm doing a lease option on a big deal. You do plenty of lease options on big deals. That's when it's not so much about a problem. It's more about getting the deal done right, getting the right deal, getting the right profit margin for both parties. But certainly where you're at with regards to small residentials, it's going to be typically people that are struggling to sell, negative equity, they've got debt, they're in arrears, they've got mortgage problems, and you're coming to fix that problem. That's the point. So my point being is fix the problem as long as it works. Get yourself booked onto Lease Option Bootcamp that we run. We've got an online and a live training program. Get yourself there, get trained, get educated, and do it right the first time.
Right, guys, thanks very much for tuning in this week. We'll be back again next week, same time, same channel. See you next week.
See you guys.